It was the cooler heard around the poker world. Aces versus Kings with just 17 left in the main event. An epic, epic moment at the World Series of Poker. And our guest today was the main character. Now, his opponents might say it wasn't the hand heard around the world, it was him. This is the guy who keeps telling people they've got one way out. The door. Speech play, baby. Speech play. William Kassouf, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being a high roller today.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, Derek. Yeah, indeed. Thanks.
Hey, listen, congrats, man. I know you've played a lot of poker in the last 4 months since the main event and recently had a big score in Nottingham, $500 tournament. Not bad, 40K. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, it was a hard fought battle, but I was short stack the whole way, so I have to get heads up. I was short heads up, but just to get second place, yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, great achievement, I think, in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, onwards and upwards.
Is that your future, just more and more poker? I mean, I checked the Hendon Mob database today and it's just score after score.
That's it. Got to keep trying, Got to keep plugging away, improving my game, getting more and more results, getting better, and getting more and more results as many as I can, really.
Now, you've had a lot of attention since the WSOP main event, and why not? I mean, your ride was truly remarkable from the time you bought in to that epic 9 high like a boss hand, and then that final incredible cooler. How would you sum up your experience in Las Vegas in 2016?
One word, sick, probably. Yeah, it was pretty sick. I really enjoyed it. Phenomenal. Just the experience of it is fantastic to play in the biggest tournament in the world. I have played it before. It's my first WSOP cash, so it's great to have my first WSOP cash for $338,000. So I can't complain. Tax free as well because I'm from the UK. So there you go. Sick rubs for the US players.
Sick brag, if you will.
Yeah, indeed, and I've got to thank the Brexiters as well because the pound-dollar rate was really bad going there. But I knew, with the rate being really bad, if I won dollars, then it'll be worth a lot more when I brought them back in the UK. So they dropped from 1.49 to $1.29 to the pound. So I made a lot more. I think I £74,000 extra tax-free as well, just on the exchange rate because of Brexit. So that was a massive difference there in winning this year. So but in the grand scheme of things, a great tournament, great structure, best in the world. 2 hour clock. So that was my point really when people were having gripes against me for taking my time and everything. We're on day 7 and they're calling the floor and going on till. I think they made that as an excuse really for me taking my time and tanking, if you like. I think they're more frustrated with my speech play. The fact I was taking my time, the fact I was speaking to them in every hand, and they couldn't take it. They weren't used to it, and they called the floor on me. He's going to do this in every hand. Yes, why not? It's within the rules. So I think they're getting more frustrated with my speech play rather than just specifically I was tanking every hand with ragged hand. Because if you saw the hands, you'd realise I had a decision majority of the time, even when I was tanking, that they were all accusing me of. But in terms of the actual experience, yeah, it was fantastic. Recommend it to every poker player around the world. I know it's not going to be in everyone's budget to buy in for a 10K buy in main event, but there's plenty of satellites, there's plenty of tournaments to spin up in. Get backing if you have to, but just build up your bankroll and just play it. You have to play it. It's like the dream for any poker player just to compete in the World Series of Poker main event. Just to say you have that on your CV, that you played in the biggest tournament and the most prestigious tournament in the world. So yeah, fantastic achievement, the best structure in the world in terms of tournament poker. And you just can't beat it. You just can't beat it.
I played one event this year at the World Series of Poker. I played event 57, Omaha High Low, the $1,500 buy-in, 757 players. They paid 110. I finished 113th. That was very, very frustrating. Hey, we're going to talk more about speech play, but since you brought up Brexit, I'm just wondering, you're across the pond there. What do you think of, I'm in Canada, what's going on in the U.S. with the election? What's your take on it?
On the US election?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really get involved in politics, but I don't know. If I had to choose one between Hillary and Trump, I'd have to choose Hillary, I guess. Plus the fact that she's a lawyer as well, like myself. So I think from the policies and from what I've heard both candidates say, I think I'd have to be in Team Hillary rather than Team Trump.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be an epic cooler for one of them. Okay, speech play. What is it? How do you use it? And it says on your, by the way, it says on your Twitter profile, quote, I'm a solicitor by profession, and I'm also a professional poker player. I'm a chilled out, fun-loving kind of guy, always up for a challenge and a good laugh. Now, I'm a big fan of yours. This speech play has no malice involved, correct?
Of course. No, I don't insult, I don't berate anyone. A lot of people say I do a lot of talk at the table. Wind people up, people get frustrated, let me get under their skin. They're trying to effectively portray me as like a Tony G character. I'm nothing like Tony G in that regard because I don't insult or berate anyone. I'm not rude to anyone across the table. Just to do my standard speech play, the fundamental theory behind it is obviously trying to get information from your opponent. What better way to speak to get information than to converse with your opponent across the table? Try and get as much information as you can. Because as a lawyer, I've been trained to use analytical skills from law school to analyze all the information you have before you, if I'm going to bring that analogy from a court of law, to use evidence you have before you to outwit your opponent, the other barrister, in the courtroom to convince the judge that your client's not guilty. So bringing that across to the poker table, you're using all the information you have, the cards that you're dealt, the players that you're facing, the bets pre-flop, on the flop, the flop textures, looking at your opponent, seeing body languages, seeing how they react to you, seeing how they respond to your line of questioning. Do they look comfortable? Do they look weak? Do they sound like they want you to call? Depending on whether they interact with you with the speech base. So all of these things are going through your mind and trying to think what your opponent's thinking, you think they have, and vice versa. So it's a whole different level of thinking in terms of the whole psychological aspect of the game. And that's where I think is a big part of my game more than some others who use like game theory and maths. You can't knock them for that, A lot of people have had a lot of results using that kind of strategy. I think my strategy going in was pretty much, to try and play my A game in terms of using the psychological aspect, getting into my opponent's mind, getting under their skin, if you like. If they chose to let it get under their skin with a bit of banter and speech play, with me playing within the rules and doing nothing wrong, and if they let that get to them emotionally and psychologically, and that effectively made them play bad against me, so be it. That was going to be an advantage for me. It's going to be plus EV for me, increase my equity in going deep in the tournament. So effectively, that was the strategy I employed going throughout the whole of the 7 days. To break it up, I said even to my friends back home, I was going to play days 1 to 3 as a satellite and play from day 3 onwards, once we're in the money, play it then as a tournament. So I stuck to that, didn't make any moves. I ran fairly bad on days 1 to 3. I didn't panic. I went down to 9 big blinds on day 3 before the money, like 50 off the money. Well, I didn't panic at all, but on a 2-hour clock, I eventually got it in with ace king of clubs for my tournament life. That was the only time I got it in with a tournament life, really. Ace king of clubs, got called by pocket queens, hit the ace, doubled up, and just went from there. And they crushed my table day 4, and just spun up and just went from there and never looked back, really. So it just goes to show, like I said, best structured tournament in the world on a 2-hour clock, and never needed to panic, even down to 9 big blinds on day 3. Had under starting stack on day 3 and still didn't panic. So yeah, a great achievement in that regard, but I think I employed my strategy well, use it to maximum effect, use the loopholes, if you like, in terms of the actual rulings, what you could do, what I couldn't do, like riding the line, if you like, in terms of the rulings that were given against me. I think a lot of rulings did go against me that shouldn't have. I think I called out Jack Efron on quite a few of them. I had Daniel Negreanu back me up, saying that every time there was an altercation between William Kassouf and Jack Efron, William was right and Jack was wrong, which was effectively the case, which shouldn't be the case in the WSOP main event, which shouldn't be the case that one player is always right against the tournament director. So I think he had a bit of a nightmare dealing and in directing the actual tournament this year. I mean, got to give him credit, Jack Efron, for his achievements over the years. Been the tournament director of the World Series of Poker for several years now. But I think, in my honest opinion, I think this year he had a bit of a nightmare directing it, being the tournament director, especially with the rulings against me. I felt as if I was singled out, I was victimised. He got a number of the rulings wrong, especially on day 7 when I had a hand against Matthew Moss, when I was sitting there pocket 3s and I was facing an all-in bet when Moss had shoved all in with ace-8 of diamonds. And I had a decision there for a chunk of my stack. He was all in, I was the last to act. That's the only time in the WSOP rules where you can actually speak to your opponent and discuss the hand. Do you want me to call? I think you got ace high. And then for Charlie, the other floor staff, floor man, to go 1 player per hand just didn't make any sense at all. And Negreanu picked up on that. How does this 1 player per hand rule apply in this instance? It doesn't at all, because I'm facing an all-in bet. The decision's on me. I'm last to act. I'm allowed to engage in conversation and ask my opponent if they want me to go. Are they shoving with ace high? Are we racing or whatever? So then for Jack Efron to come to in the middle of that hand, I thought was really bizarre. He could have used a bit of common sense there. Just waited till the hand was over. Maybe waited till one of the players called a clock on me if they thought I was taking too long. Wait till the clock went down to 0, whether I called or folded. Waited till the hand was over. Then take me to the side and have a word with me if necessary, whatever he wanted to say. But he chose not to. He came in the middle of the hand while I'm facing an all-in bet. He then tried to give a ruling, which is completely wrong, and saying it's none of your business whether he wants you to call. I mean, it's every bit of my business whether I want him to call or not. That's the whole point. He shoved all in. I've got to ask the questions of my opponent to try and understand whether he's got a bigger pair or he's shoving with ace high. So I'm trying to get information from him. So I'm perfectly entitled to ask him. People were piping up, well, he's not talking to you. That's not the point. It's irrelevant whether he's talking back to me or not. I'm still entitled. I'm playing within the rules to asking all these questions to get the information I need to make the informed decision whether to call or fold. So I think that was completely wrong on his part, and I was ashamed. I was a bit disappointed, rather, that the ESPN didn't show the reason why towards the end, the latter part of my coverage, in any way, why I was so quiet towards the end. Everyone was laughing and joking on the table, but I was quite quiet. The reason being that Jack Efron had come onto the feature table on day 7, and he threatened me with a 3-round penalty.
Wow.
if I carried on doing what I was doing, even though I was playing within the rules, because a whole bunch of Americans, especially Cliff Joseph and others, were complaining about me and doing it in every hand, and they couldn't take it, even though I was saying nothing malicious and nothing like that.
Well, let me ask you about that. Let me ask you about that. What is
Yeah.
your takeaway from the telecast? Because I'm a talker at the table. I mean, I like to have fun, and I have experienced it before where, especially if you're winning, the table turns against you because you're out there talking, having a good time. It certainly seemed like mob mentality. How unfairly do you think you were actually treated? They're saying you took too much time, but I found it to be quite entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, I think they use that as an excuse. I think they felt, this guy, who the hell does he think he is? You know, we're all the pros here. We're all on the same team, as to use Cliff Joseph's words. Trying to tell the others and say we're all on the same team here. I don't know if there's like borderline collusion there to say that, yeah, they're on one team and I'm on the other. So it's the whole table against me, literally. So I felt as if I was victimized. I felt as if I was being singled out, that they were trying to gang up against me. I didn't let it get to me. I was like strong psychologically, mentally, focusing on my game, playing my way, doing whatever I could to give me the biggest edge, to give me the maximum potential and equity to go deep in the tournament. And I realised that the players were going on tilt. I realised it was getting them frustrated. I realised doing what I was doing and chipping up and going from the shortest stack to chip leader on the table was getting them frustrated. And they didn't let go of hands. They were calling me light when I had the best hand. They were paying me off in situations where normally they'd fold against any other player, but against me they couldn't lay their hand down when I had the goods. Semi-bluffed them in good spots and they were folding. So everything was going right for me, and I chipped up and they were getting more and more frustrated. And this is why they called the floor on me in every hand, called the clock on me in every hand. I think it's ridiculous. So it would never happen to any other player. I think there's several other players who are tanking a lot longer than I was, in complete silence, just sitting there, not making a motion. No one called a clock on them, no one called the floor on them, or anything like that. But because it was me, because I was talking in every hand, they were getting frustrated. They didn't like my antics and how I was dealing with things and getting under their skin and pushing it to the max, even though I was playing within the rules. Because they were getting frustrated, then Cliff Joseph would be like the ringleader, if you like, the shepherd of the flock, who would pipe up and wave his stick around, and then the likes of Gordon Veo and others at the table would then jump on the bandwagon to back up Josephine, and then all have one single voice, if you like, to complain to the floor about me. So that's effectively how I felt, how it was. I think the floor staff handled it badly. I think they succumbed to the pressure of the likes of Josephine and others. So it felt as if there was like one rule for them and one rule for me. The likes of Josephine, Helmuth, and Madasau, they'd get a separate treatment because they are who they are, characters in the game, big name personalities. So if they did something that was borderline breaking the rule or even a clear infringement of the rules, nothing would happen to them. Like in the past, I've seen a number of videos with Phil Helmuth calling someone an idiot from Northern Europe, several times. Mike Matsuo against Sean Shakan, they're berating each other across the table, a complete slanging match, and not one word was said to them, not one warning, not one penalty. And it seemed in this instance, in the WSOP this summer, Cliff Joseph called me a clown 5 times. Not like I was defended by calling me a clown, if that's how low he wants to go and show how little class he had, which I was surprised about, considering his standing in the community and his name, Mr. Johnny Beggs. To lower himself to that level and start name calling across the table was shameful. But then to hear that and to say it several times, 5 times he called me a clown, and not to even get a warning or even a penalty from Jack Keppel, I think that was shocking. So it just goes to show there's one rule for him and one rule for me. I think if the shoe was on the other foot and I called Cliff Joseph a clown or name called anyone else on that table, it'll be an instant 1-round penalty without question, 100%. If I got a penalty on day 5 for taunting, which I think was absolutely ridiculous against Satan Masson, because all I said with the hand gestures is, if you fold and show, I'll show. I wasn't goading her, I wasn't taunting her, I wasn't telling her to fold, I literally did the hand gestures. If you fold and show, I'll show, because I was told I couldn't say another word. So I had to improvise then. It may have been seen as cheeky because I was told I couldn't say another word, but I didn't say another word. I had to find another way to convince her to fold, because it's a 1.2 million chip pot on day 5, one of the biggest pots in the tournament then, and I'm bluffing with 9 high like a boss. Got to convince her to fold and lay her hand down. So I got it through. People are saying, well, was it worth it? Well, hell yes, it was worth it. I wasn't trying to get a penalty, but I felt as if I was going to get a penalty anyway, so why not push the boundaries? Whatever it took to win that pot, it was a massive pot at the time, so whatever it took to win that pot, I had to do. So if it means pushing the boundaries a bit and miming to her when I was told I couldn't say another word, because I technically didn't say another word, then so be it. If I was going to get the penalty, so be it, as long as I won that hand. So I didn't go out of my way to try and take the piss or push the boundary to the max or break any rules, because I think Jack Keppel even admitted on camera I wasn't actually breaking any of the WSOP rules. I was just pushing the boundaries to the max that he was forcing me. I was forcing him to intervene for the integrity of the game and sportsmanlike behaviour on the table, etc. Which I defended myself as effectively saying, I understand the whole integrity thing, and I'm here to play my game my way. I'm not breaking. You just submitted on camera. I'm not breaking any of the WSOP rules. So why are you pulling me out? And calling me out and giving me a penalty effectively for something that I haven't done if I haven't broken the rules? rules, and he was almost used it like an equity kind of rule, his discretion as tournament director. Oh, we felt, after all this time, it's come to this point where, you pushed it too far that we have to give you a penalty. But I think a lot of people have sided with me, even Norman Chad at the time said I thought it was a bit harsh to get a one-round penalty.
There is a case where there's evidence that your speech play definitely works. 9 high like a boss, you got her to fold. Several other cases throughout the main event, I'm sure. And to be fair, your talking also gives your opponents a chance to get a read on you, to be fair. Do you think a shot clock is coming?
I think so. I think a lot of people are calling for the rule change. They say every time that there's some kind of controversy at WSOP, and to say that there was controversy at this year's WSOP would be an understatement, I think. Massive controversy in terms of what happened. I think majority of the world are on my side in terms of the ruling and how they ruled against me, and the rulings were wrong and I was right, effectively. So I think when you have a situation like that, where the floor have got it completely wrong, where the tournament director, Jack Effel, got it completely wrong, I think there has to be a rule change. It has to be addressed. Something has to be done about it. We cannot have the same thing repeat next year, because it'll be an absolute shambles and it'll be a disgrace if that did happen. I'm sure it wouldn't happen again, hence why the WSP will be wise enough to change the rules. People are saying, they're going to bring in a new rule. They'll probably call it the Will Kassouf rule or William Kassouf rule if they use my full name. Whatever. If they have, then so be it. I'll take it as a massive compliment if they made a rule change in my name, regardless of what the rule change is. Even if it's a shot clock, so be it. I think people are being distracted and jumping on the bandwagon too much and too quickly in terms of his speech play was fine, but he was tanking unnecessarily with 9 deuce off and things like that. I never tanked with 9 deuce off. I think the hand they're getting confused about when I tanked was with 9 deuce of clubs under the gun +1. But what they didn't give me credit for was I raised under the gun +1 with 9 deuce of clubs and got majority of the table to fold. Got Jared Blesnick to call in the big blind with a better hand. I flopped the deuce bottom pair. He checked, I bet, and he folded. So they don't give me credit for that hand. The fact that I was tanking with 9 deuce of clubs for a minute or so under the gun +1. The whole tanking issue, you've got to balance it when you're raising light and when you've got a strong hand. Because if I'm going to snap fold every time I've got a junk hand, you're effectively giving away tells to your opponent that, I'm raising light here. Please exploit me and take advantage of me next time when I raise you. So you've got to balance your range and your tanking range, if you like. I never snap fold anything. I never snap call anything. There's a lot of thought that goes into my game. I think there's a lot of thought, especially on day 7 there. I was thinking a lot more about my hands than my opponents were. There's a lot more that was going through my mind rather than just playing ABC poker and waiting for legit hands. I wasn't playing to ladder up. It was the same payout from 27 down to 18 on day 7. So I had to chip up. I was 22nd in chips. I had 27 left. I was the shortest stack on the table. But still, I never put my stack at risk and just chipped up, played my game. And I had to open up effectively and open light, 3-bet light, and everything was working for me in that regard. So I think people didn't give me credit for the way I played and how I chipped up.
Since that time, William, what kind of response have you got? I know a lot of people are in favor of your speech play. Negreanu and Helmuth mentioned it on the WSOP telecast. Social media, you're quite active. And I noticed that during the main event final table, when both Johnny Bax and Gordon Vail went out, someone tweeted out justice. I mean, a lot of people are on your side and thought, especially when they didn't shake your hands, a few of them, and that was terrible.
Yeah, I think Johnny Bax and Gordon Vail, I think they were the two guys that were definitely ganging up against me. I think Johnny Bax, if I could describe him as like the ringleader or the leader of the gang, the shepherd of the flock, if you like, before the rest of the sheep jumped on the bandwagon. He was the one who started all the controversy because he was who he was. He had Jack Effel on his side. Jack Effel knew him, big name in the community. Johnny Bax, Cliff Josephine. So anything he would say, like Jack Effel would be siding with him regardless of the situation, regardless of what was said or whether he was wrong or he was right. He would be siding with Josephine more than me in like 95% of the time, regardless of the situation, which I thought was ridiculous. Even though Cliff Josephine admitted to Jack Effel, it was just me. I called him a clown. I admit that. I thought at that point, Jack Effel would step in and say, Cliff, you can't be name calling players. This is your final warning. If you do it again, I'll give you a penalty. That would have been reasonable. Why can't he be fair and reasonable and say that to Josephine? As much as I didn't take it personally that he was calling me a clown or name calling me whatever, I thought it was quite low from his part. I wasn't going to lower myself to his standard. But at least, Jack Effel should have been impartial there, should have shown his position and impartiality as a tournament director and come clean with the rules. You're clear breach of the rules here. This is your final warning. You cannot name call people or insult players across the table, Cliff. This is your final warning. I'll give you a penalty. Why did he not say that? There you go. So that proves their inconsistency, lack of consistency in the WSOP rules. That's what has to change in that regard. I think Gordon Vail was just as bad, or if not worse, than Cliff Josephy in what he was doing. I think he was shit stirring, if you like, telling players when I went to the rail, oh yeah, he was like berating. He was known for berating a woman to tears, which is absolute bullshit because I never berated anyone in the whole tournament and I never reduced anyone to tears. He was referring to Stacey Matheson on day 5, who obviously, after I bluffed her with 9 high against her queens and she folded, she then subsequently went out with pocket aces a couple of hands after that. She was never reduced to tears. She even took to social media herself on Twitter and put a tweet out there. No one's ever reduced me to tears in poker, and I don't cry about poker. Something along those lines. So that goes to clarify my point that she wasn't reduced to tears. She was strong enough not to cry about it, so to speak. And I definitely didn't berate anyone. As you can see from all the coverage, there's not one word of no malice whatsoever in whatever I said or did to any player throughout the whole 7 days playing there. And more to the point, I don't insult or berate anyone generally in any tournament I've ever played in. So it just goes to show how Gordon Bay was like, lying, so to speak. I can call him a lot more worse names. Well, they're not right now. But yeah, a lot of people have realised that, calling him a liar, a bit of a scumbag, a bit of a douche for doing what he did, bad naming me, saying I berated women to tears, which was a complete lie. I think that was the reason why the likes of Griffin Benger, the likes of Jerry Wong, acted the way they did. In terms of Benger, I think it was premeditated in terms of his outburst and how he overreacted. I think he regrets it now, having seen the coverage. And I think he's admitted in an interview that I wasn't anywhere near as bad as he first thought. He perceived me as being this vile individual that berates women to tears, and he brought it on himself that if he got in a pot with me, he's gonna go for me, and that's exactly what he did. Even though that was the first hand I played with him, the first time ever in my life I played with Griffin Benger, the first pot I played with him, and first time I've seen him. And for him to have an outburst like that was completely out of line. I thought there was no reason for it. It was uncalled for. All I was doing, as you can see from the coverage, was trying to get information from my opponent. I had kings there. I was actually legitimately thinking about folding kings at that point because he's raised 4-bet me under the gun, and it's quite he could easily have aces there. But I'm thinking he's got ace king or queens or aces. I'm crushing 2 of them and I'm losing to 1. And I'm thinking, well, he's always going to be 4-betting me there with ace king and queens. He's never going to flat call my 3-bet out position, especially with my image, and I've got a broad range to 3-bet. So he'd always 4-bet me there with ace king and queens. Hence why I was thinking, well, he could do it that hand. And having lost myself the hand with ace against ace jack, Gordon Vail, because he's the biggest luck sack ever, to crack my aces and go down in chips there. And I think it was a no-brainer then. After he'd 4-bet, I had to go with the hand. Otherwise, if I still had 20 million and not lost the hand against Gordon Vail 2 hands before, then I think the hand plays completely differently. I don't 6-bet, 7-bet jam with 1 pair and get it in pre. But I think the way he reacted and his outburst was due to the likes of Gordon Vail telling him that I was this person who berated women to tears. The reason why Jerry Wong, as well as Mike Nowinski, both refused to shake my hand at the end after I busted, especially Wong, because I think he's friends with Gordon Vail, and Vail would have told him the same thing, effectively, oh, this is the kind of guy that he is, even though I've never played with Jerry Wong before, never played with Griffin Benger before you saw me in the final 18 there, or final 17 before I busted. So I think that was the reason why. So arguably, like, Gordon Vail was like worse in his attitude and his demeanour and the way he acted towards me, and the lies he spread about me was arguably worse than the way Cliff Josephy acted as like the bully on the table and just name calling me. So those 2 were the worst in my opinion in terms of how they acted, how they behaved, and they went unpunished. No punishment given to them whatsoever. Even Griffin Benger for his outburst. And people are getting it wrong that I tried to get Griffin Benger a penalty after I busted because I was annoyed that he busted me with ace. That was completely wrong as well. I wasn't trying to get Griffin Benger a penalty because of the hand or what he said to me, even though I thought that was wrong. It was more for his rail because I'm told that you have to be responsible for the actions of your rail. And while I was in the hand, there are lots of negative comments about the UK and Brexit and England, and there's calling us out as saying really bad things. I heard this from my rail. So there's only a few Brits on the rail then. Obviously, after day 7, majority had gone home. But from the few Brits I heard on the rail, they're really seething at the comments from Benger's rail. They're shouting bad things about the UK, and there could have been an altercation, a big fight on the rail, but luckily it didn't come to that because I didn't have those kind of friends on the rail that would get involved in altercation. They're a bit older and a bit more conservative.
Yeah, we've had Griffin Benger on the show, and he seems like a very nice guy. He's been very good to me. I think that was very uncharacteristic. But now that you explain it, that there were 2 leading the pack, and he sort of got caught up in what was going on, that makes more sense because he's certainly taken some heat. And as you mentioned, I think he does regret it. We saw the exit interview during the final table where he says, I got to be careful what I say on national television. Anyway, I was going to ask you about another epic speech play hand with Vanessa Selps, but I told you half an hour. We've got a few minutes left. Anybody wants to check out that hand, William Kassouf versus Vanessa Selps, go to YouTube. It's classic. I want to end with the final table and Mr. Qui Win. What do you think of how all that went down, and what was your experience playing against him?
Yeah, I was rooting for him from the start of the final table. Him and Michael Rowan. Obviously, I was hoping that the likes of Josephine, Bayo, and others obviously busted earlier, and Benger from the way they acted and the way they treated me, so with disrespect and lack of class. So I'm happy that Qui Win went all the way. I was rooting for him, especially the final three. I tweeted about him. I Facebook messaged him with friends on Facebook, and I thought we're following each other on Twitter. Yeah, great guy. Showed a lot of heart. Fantastic character, fantastic play in terms of how he mixed it up. Controversial, a bit unorthodox, if you like. How he plays his game. It's not your conventional, like the professional poker player kind of like style of playing compared to the likes of Bayo or Josephine or the name pros around the circuit. He completely blew the whole game out of the water. Completely different game he played. Unpredictable. I think there's a lot of characteristics that he showed and he played. The way he played was similar to the way I played. Being unpredictable on the table is a key trait to have, and he played with a lot of heart, a lot of courage, made so many moves that you'd never think any poker player would do. Even Antonio Esfandiari and Norman Sheridan and Lon McCarron in the commentary booth said, you just don't know what this guy's going to do. Normally this would be a fold, but look at Qui Win, he's raising. Then he gets re-raised by Gordon Bayo, and then Qui Win comes over the top. Both had like Queen High or something. It was ridiculous. But that was a level of thinking. You're playing the play and you're trying to get reads off your opponent, trying to understand whether they're weak or they're strong, and just going on gut instinct. And that was what I loved. That he showed so much heart and just went on his gut instinct and his feeling at the hand at the time, and whether to make a move there and then. And his timing was perfect, pretty much spot on in majority of the decisions he made. I think it was fantastic the way he played, completely different, refreshing. To see that a lot of his play and his style of play and the moves he made are similar to what I did. So I could have given him credit for the way he played. A worthy champion. I love the way he played. Showed a lot of heart, a lot of guile, and a lot of conviction in every move he made, basically. So a worthy champion. Congrats to Qui Win.
Qui Win and William Kassouf playing for the win, right? That's what you guys were doing. You were going for number one.
That's it. I'm glad it was one of us. I'm glad he went all the way. I was unfortunate to get cooled in two massive hands. Otherwise, I was in a great position then to at least make November 9. I think the majority of the world were rooting for me to make November 9. It wasn't meant to be this year, but I played my heart out. I think, without trying to blow my blow my trumpet too much, I think I'm the most talked about poker player in the world right now. So just the noise I made and the havoc I created there. I plan to make waves in the Vegas desert. I didn't think it would turn out to be a tsunami and an earthquake as it is at this seismic proportion. But yeah, it's phenomenal. The attention and the support I've been getting. Everyone going around the world, every card room in the UK, especially shouting 9 high like a boss, and the coconuts, and it's spreading like wildfire around the world. It's unbelievable.
It's also with the rapidity of your speech. I mean, you're a quick talker.
Yeah, you got it. But that's part of the strategy, trying to confuse your opponent. He's talking all the time. What's he saying? He's getting to my mind. I can't even hear myself think. He doesn't let me think. I don't know what to do. What, do you want me to call? Do you want me to raise? What do you think I have? I got you beat. You got one out the door. Your favourite to hit it. They don't even know what to do. They don't know what to think. They're second guessing all
the monkey nuts, the coconuts.
This is it. Gambling with the nuts, with the redraw to the monkey nuts, the river, the absolute coconuts. Nuts, monkey nuts, coconuts. Nut. You can't make it.
William Kassouf, man, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. Keep up the speech play, keep up the great poker, and we hope you make waves in the Las Vegas desert next summer as well, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
Indeed, I plan to do the same, exactly. Watch this space.